research in this plan means academic theories as opposed to evidence that's already available in the state of successful schools. And why would theories when we have evidence of successful schools in Ohio, things that are working in Ohio? It seems to be a major conceptual breach in what they think is happening.
I'm not sure I completely understand the question. Do you want to try to?
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's been a lot of talk about the evidence-based model, and just so we're clear, the word evidence-based model, that term, was coined by Alan Auden and Lawrence Pikus, not by the governor's office. This is a form of modeling for education funding that has been developed primarily by these two researchers. What we've done is we've gone through what these two researchers have said are these components that are important for student success. And we've gone through and we've looked at where that evidence came from, and a lot of it came from peer-reviewed research journals. What we heard in committee was that there is not a single peer-reviewed research study out there indicating that any of the components of the current funding system have much to do with student success, meaning that they do not, you know, these various components of the current funding model do not seem to have an impact on student success, at least in any sort of peer-reviewed established study. The components of this evidence-based model that Auden and Pikus have developed do indeed have peer-reviewed research behind them, including the foundation of the different components of formula, which came out of a white paper from the University of Wisconsin a couple of years ago, has since been published in an MIT peer-reviewed journal. So the white paper upon which this was based is there. There's difference between evidence and anecdotal evidence. There's plenty of anecdotal evidence that that there are success stories around the state. We heard from, you know, scores of them during our testimony. But there is little evidence that any of that had to do with the way we fund schools. It's because of the teachers, the parents, the administrators, the kids themselves who are dedicated to being educated, and it had very little to do with you know, the components of the funding model. This funding model would have something to do with that, and that's just a fundamental shift.
And if I might add, as you heard Representative Dyer earlier, for those schools right now that are successful, we are providing flexibility. We are not going to inhibit their ability to continue to be successful. I was a little surprised when I heard some of the comments from some in the Senate critical of the program that they hadn't even seen or had any details of. Normally people want to see some details before they jump into it. And I'm very optimistic that once the details are totally available, that we will see support from some.
Since you've separated out the Title I and the IDEA money, if I'm a school district superintendent, I see that, let's say I'm getting 1%, 1.5% per year increase under the formula, but then I'm getting, you know, a big batch of money on top of that. How should I see that? I mean, should I be worried that, okay, in 2 years I better not spend this on ongoing programs because that extra money is not going to be there in 2 years? Or are you anticipating covering the formula plus that money in the next 2-year budget? How should they view that stimulus dollar?
They should view them as stimulus dollars and plan accordingly. I mean, you know, for each district it's going to mean something different. Because frankly, for each district it's going to be a different pot of money in terms of size and scope and everything. So I think what I would relate to administrators as I've related to the you know, to the statewide organizations is to plan for that accordingly, and make sure that your district is prepared for the eventuality of those Title I and IDEA monies being reduced.
We got time for one more question. Then for press we have